Welcome to the AI Unplugged Mastermind. Today, I'm really excited for our guest, Grant Lee from Gamma. He's the CEO, co-founder, founder, and he's gonna share a little bit about Gamma. And I'm really excited to have him on because it is probably one of my most favorite AI tools that I use all the time. Um, and it's doing something I hate to do, like putting together decks and presentations. Gamma makes it so easy, and I haven't had to do a PowerPoint in over okay, so sometimes I turn my Gammas into PowerPoints because it's required, but I haven't started a PowerPoint in well over a year now since I've been using Gamma. Um, First, we're going to talk about a little bit of what's going on in the news. And one of the biggest topics of conversation that's going on right now is Google's major algorithm changes and the impact that it's having on businesses across the board. Some e-com companies that we've been talking to, they've lost 20%, 60% of sales simply because Google decided to do a change in their algorithm. Some of the companies have gone to Google to petition to get their ranking back. And Google has obliged for some of those companies. And really big major retailers have been affected by this change as well. And so we see these algorithm updates often. This was a really impactful one. There was another one last March that was financially impactful as well for a lot of companies. And a hot topic is, how do we stay relevant in search, top of search engines with AI and what's going on? And one of the things that we recommend and see is still very relevant is your inbound links, and inbound links with high value that you get from press, podcasts, partners, industry partners. Getting those inbound links are becoming more and more important, and you can't just rely on the content on your website to help you rank. And the content has to be really good, but it also has to be third-party validated as relevant and good, and that's what those links prove. So I've been in a lot of conversations about that because people are having these 911 calls because they lost, that 20% of business all the way up to 60% of business from the ones we've been talking to. And that's impacting people's livelihoods, their jobs, there's a real panic going on around that. Grant, I was wondering if you've seen anything with that, or like talked to your colleagues, and if that's impacted you or not.
Yeah, I would say it hasn't had a direct impact on us just yet, but I think mindful of these things having obviously pretty big impact across the board. It reminds me a lot of, when oftentimes anytime these platforms change anything, their algorithms, like Facebook back in the day, people's acquisition costs going through the roof, or just different things, impacting how they were, building or scaling their business. And obviously these platforms can pull the rug from underneath you. And a lot of it will be about figuring out ways to kind of, reinvent how you approach scaling and building the business, hopefully taking advantage of newer tools out there. And I think being able to lean on the broader community in terms of understanding what's working. I think, the fact that you're all here learning, it means probably very open to being able to, learn from each other. I think that's going to be super important. And for us, I think, yeah, we're trying to just follow along, because I think a lot of this will inevitably trickle down to any sort of business, and we're going to try our best to kind of adapt with everyone else.
Thank you. Yeah, now that you mentioned Meta too, we've seen a lot of those lead acquisition rates go up too significantly in the last 3 months. And whether it's a Meta algorithm, or we're going into a heavy election season there's 60% of countries in the world are having major elections this year. And so that takes up a big share of voice and a lot of the advertising availability. And so it's going to make ads go up. It's going to be harder to have your voice heard. And so I don't know how many of you have thought about that and have prepared for it, but it's going to be a very noisy election season. And we're seeing some impact already, because as the different candidates, as they're buying up ad inventory, there is less for everybody else. It increases prices, and it's harder to be heard and seen, also harder to get press and some of those others. So we need to get really creative and have more of the conversations about what is working and really share that, because I think with our clients, we've been preparing them for going into this time, and even for ourselves, we're not going to be spending, we're not going to be trying to compete with ads. We're going to continue these masterminds and producing really good content. But we don't want to compete with the ads for where we are, because our cost per acquisition is already pretty high in our category. And so we'll see what happens with this cycle, but it's something that everyone should be aware of and planning for.
Yep.
I think Shonda, is she on? She had a question for you also. Shonda, are you there? I see you.
Yes, I
Yeah.
am here. Hi. Hi. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, so I did have a question just based on information that I've seen with different apps, particularly one that we use on a daily basis that is gathering our information and using it to test bots. Um and it's such a concern because they're basically saying, yeah, well, our AI policy automatically opts you in. So anything that you share, from documents to data, we're collecting it and we're keeping it.
Mm.
And it's just like, oh my gosh. Well, are my ideas and my thoughts and things that I am creating now, a part of this larger system that I really didn't know about because I didn't read all the fine print that I'm automatically opted in because I'm sharing, you know? So yeah, that's definitely something that has been heavy on my mind for the past few days.
Yeah, I feel
Thanks,
like
Shonda.
in terms of just, yeah, just I guess my 2 cents there. I think a lot of it, we still kind of are in a little bit of the wild, wild west when it comes to a lot of startups just trying to do whatever they can to make progress, and a lot of that is based on building a foundation of users and figuring out how they can, build something that is scalable over time. And unfortunately, some of these startups, a lot of it, I think, as you're, choosing the apps or the technology you want to be able to partner with long term, it really is going beyond just what the app is, maybe doing some research into what is the company's mission, who are they backed by, what are their long term objectives? Because if they're in the camp of we're just trying to make a quick buck and they don't care at all about the end users or their privacy or their data, then there's definitely a risk there. And I think that's something to be mindful of. And I think there are certainly people out there just to try to make a quick buck or flip something into something that could be monetized in certain ways. So going back into just trying to understand what the mission or the purpose of the business is, I think will probably go a long ways into at least helping you identify some yellow flags or red flags to potentially avoid there. And then yeah, I mean, when you think about a lot of these apps that are really trying to offer some sort of free consumer facing product, you do need to kind of ask yourselves, like, how is this company monetizing, or what is the business model? And if it seems too good to be true as a consumer, then oftentimes there's probably more behind it. And that's also probably a yellow flag or red flag to just try to avoid. Um, Most, I think established startups that are trying to do it the right way, they very much are very data privacy centric and ensure that, what they're trying to do never exposes, end users' data in ways that, compromises that privacy, and certainly isn't being used to somehow train their own models unless it's explicitly stated that your data is being used that way. And if it is, it should be mentioned, and it should be very clear to the end user. But again, I think a lot of these patterns are still being sort of formed, and you'll kind of have to see how the general landscape sort of evolves and what sort of standards get set.
And so where does Gamma sit on that spectrum, Grant? Like, what do you do with the information that people input? Because if they're doing pitch decks, they're definitely doing some, they're putting in what they might consider private or confidential until it's out there publicly.
Totally, yeah. I mean, our point of view on all this is like, for the end user, like, your data should not be used to train any of our models today. And if it is, we would again explicitly allow you to opt into that. Um, we do want to be able to help you from a end user standpoint. If you are telling us that, hey, as I'm creating more and more content, it'd be nice for Gamma to understand the vibe or the style or the tone I'm going for, and such that when I am creating more content in Gamma, it can learn from my own personal design patterns and preference, but that would never be the case where we then take your data and train it on a model such that now everybody else, is actually learning from how you want to create presentations. That is, absolutely not our intent. I think whenever we are, in the future, aiming to, either personalize or improve our, the way we generate content, it would all be in the vein of how can we ensure that, users are opting into that, and it's very clear that that is the case.
Okay, that's good to know.
Very good to know. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I want to opt in to have it learn my voice and, my creative preferences a little bit more. And I didn't know that was a possibility. So thank you. Because I make a lot of gamma decks, and I would love to not have to reprompt it on voice and tone.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, I think this is like a big area that we will be investing much more in, is just this notion of like reusability. So, can this platform or your app get better with every use? Like as you're putting more, information to it, it can actually, serve your use case better and better. And we do want to do much better at that. The idea of reusability could even be in the non-AI world if, you're saving templates and, reusable assets. Can we really quickly pull that in for you? So if you already have, content you've created and you want to repurpose, and you're creating a new deck, and we just pull that in automatically for you. So I think there'll be a lot of that through automation that we want to really simplify, and it's going to be probably almost like a never-ending journey to improve there, because there's going to be many more
Yeah.
capabilities we can fold into the product.
So when did you start Gamma?
Yeah, we started GAM at the end of 2020. So, my own journey, I started off in the world of consulting and investment banking. So, lived in slide decks for many, many years. I later went on to run finance at another startup, and being in the more operational role. We sort of, PowerPoint was the language of business. Like everything was done in PowerPoint. How we communicated decisions, planned, the course of quarterly and annual plans, and everything kind of operated in that. And so, I've used slide decks for much of my career. The last company I was at was acquired, and I went back into more of an advisory consulting role, and picked up Google Slides as the sort of tool of communication with my clients, and just had this feeling that there's got to be a better way. I was using I was spending all this time sort of formatting, aligning boxes, and I think like many of us probably, oftentimes sitting in front of a blank screen and really suffering the sort of cold start problem, where you have this anxiety of like, how do I even get started? And wasting so much time there versus actually working on the content itself. And so the whole premise of starting off Gamma was like, could we really reimagine slide decks and presentations from the ground up? Can we simplify the entire creation flow? Can we maybe embrace kind of how people, the vast majority of us, are visual learners, but very few of us are visual designers. So can we really create a tool that, for those of us that aren't designers by background or by trade, can still create something that's presentable? And so, yeah, the sort of journey started end of 2020. It's been about 3.5 years now.
And how many users do you have on there now?
Yeah, we're approaching 20 million users now. And so we've been growing pretty quickly ever since basically a year ago, when we started rolling out more of our AI capabilities.
Very cool. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Grant before he shows you what Gamma does?
I do. I would love to know that 3-year trajectory from creation to 20 million users. So obviously I think the AI boom probably gave you just a little bit of organic help, but that's not just all organic. So what are your tips for success for online businesses that got you to 20 million?
Yeah. So, when we start off, when you're building like a tool like ours, it's very horizontal in nature, which means like you can serve many different users, use cases. And so by definition, you're like covering a ton of surface area. So, we've probably heard of tools like, Notion, Canvas, even Figma to a certain extent, where they're building a product that has a ton of surface area. You really have to be patient in how you build those sort of products, because inevitably tools like that are going to feel like a toy in the beginning, because they can only do like a small subset of things. And you're trying to compete against in our category, like obviously the PowerPoints of the world, which have been around for almost 40 years. And obviously they've been building along the way. So they have every single bell and whistle out there. And so how can you even compare? And so having the mindset of like, you're going to be very patient and sort of build deliberately and kind of start with a very, very small subset of users and try to make them happy has been sort of the journey we've been on. In 2021, we actually put up like a wait list in the beginning, just announced by basically our private beta of the product. And so at this point in time, it was just like gradually putting up a wait list and pulling people off the wait list to kind of play around with like a very, very early version of the product. And then in 2022, we launched our public beta, which was announcing on, if you've heard of a platform called Product Hunt, which is a lot of new tools will launch on this platform. And that's when we first started getting our first real set of users where we pulled the wait list off. Anybody can jump in, sign up, use the product. And we were, at the time signing up like tens of thousands of initial users. And basically in the March, April of 2023 is when we released our AI set of capabilities. And that's really when things took off. So at the time, we had tens of thousands of users. And then once we started, releasing the AI set of capabilities, it was really quickly, doubling almost every single day. And so we're adding tens of thousands of users pretty regularly. And a lot of that is driven by, things that seem obvious in nature, which is like if you're building a digital product, it's got to have super strong word of mouth. People that are using it need to tell all their other friends, need to tell all their other colleagues, coworkers. And even if it doesn't resonate with everybody, like if some subset of those users are telling multiple people, then you have some sort of organic virality that's sort of baked in. And that's the type of product that we're trying our best to engineer. Like, what are ways to make the experience as delightful as possible, such that people that do use it have a higher likelihood to want to share it with others. And by nature of the category we're in, we're in a product where if someone likes using Gamma, when they use it, they are presenting it to other people. And so that really obviously helps with our own sort of flywheel of adoption. Like, we are trying to get as many people to understand how Gamma works and get them to the point where they're comfortable sharing it with others. And fortunately for that, that's been a nice winning formula.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? No. So I have to say, when I have done the Gamma demos in front of groups of people, which I've done a lot in the last year, you get this audible just from the audience. Everybody is so excited to see it with how fast it is and how accurate and how good the outputs are. That's always the reaction, is people are shocked by it. And I was surprised by how important presentations are to people and how often they're used, no matter what the role is that somebody has. It's something that most people don't like to do, and they have to do all the time. So I appreciate having Shonda gasp too. Yeah. It's funny to be in front of a big room of people and they're shocked by building a deck. Like, that is, you have a wow factor in there in how quick and how good the product is. So if you'd like to, we could give everybody a demo, and maybe even just like the wow demo of, hey, just a short little prompt and you have a deck in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, so I'll give a quick demo, and obviously, pause me along the way or afterwards. We can answer some questions, but I'll just kind of show you the quick version of what you can do in Gamma. Basically, when you first get started, there's a few different ways you can actually leverage existing content. So pasting in, whether it's like a content you have from a Word doc or a blog post, or even something you're pulling from maybe ChatGPT as an outline, you can start there. You can import a file, so existing Google Doc or PowerPoint presentation, or you can start with basically a simple prompt, which is to say you have some general idea of what you want to present on, and you want Gamma to help you just come up with a really quick first draft. And from there, you can continue fleshing it out. So we will just go with like something super generic, which is I'm going to come up with, let's just say, teach me how to make sushi. Obviously, in your context, you might be creating something for your business, or maybe educating a customer or client on a specific content category. In this case, I'll just do something fun and generic, and we'll see what it can create. So the very first thing it does is create like an outline for you. So all the things you might want to include in a presentation about how to make sushi in this case. And you can also edit this outline, add to the outline, and basically help kind of create some of the structure in terms of what you want to create. I'm going to stick with this, the outline that we AI generated for us for now, and then we're going to move on to a few of these other settings. So you can choose a sort of information density you want. Do you want this to be sort of more of a brief presentation? You want it to be super detailed and maybe much more for like asynchronous consumption? We'll use it something in the middle for the purposes of this demo. And then you can say, do you want AI to go out and search the web for you and find images that match the content? Or do you want to actually just have AI generate images that might match what you're going for? So in this case, we'll use AI. We have access to several different models you can choose from. I'm just going to go with our very base one for now, just to show you what it'll look like. From there, you can choose the sort of look and feel you're going for. So if you have a brand, you would basically be able to come up and design your own custom theme and match your brand colors, the fonts, the theme overall that you're going for. In this case, we'll just go with maybe choosing something that feels, I guess, in line with our sort of sushi theme here. I guess we'll just go with this blue theme, and then I can basically say hit generate. And when I hit generate, AI is going to now go out and take the content that we had started with, which is basically the outline, and start creating the actual presentation for us. So like, what are all the things that we want to include in this presentation? How do we want to structure it? And how do we want to visualize this information? So obviously certain types of content would be better to be packaged and consumed in a certain way. So Gamma is going to take a stab at basically creating that sort of structure for you. So now we have this sort of AI presentation with some fun and delicious looking content, and we can immediately go into present mode. So present mode takes this and automatically makes this into something I can present and share with you all, and basically is ready to go as a first draft, right? And so as I'm going through this, it's as if I had spent some time really thinking about how I'd want to present this and teach you guys how to make sushi, but done so in a way that was really quick and looks nice and presentable. We have a lot of like baked in features where instead of having to think about animations and transitions, it's all kind of done for you. So we have something called spotlighting, which allows you to basically go in and allow you to kind of control the focal point of a presentation, to say, as I'm talking through this, like, what points do I want to really emphasize, and kind of walk you through the content. And so without, again, having to spend any time on this, it's kind of ready for you. And we also have the ability to basically go in and say, actually, I want to create speaker notes for this. So I have this presentation. How can I just create some speaker notes so that as I'm going through this, I know exactly what I want to talk about? And now the speaker notes are ready for you. And again, when you go into present mode, you can then on a separate screen see all the speaker notes, which I don't have the monitor set up here properly, but I'd be able to actually just have this presentation done and be able to even talk through the entire deck, even though we just created it for you on the fly. You can also then continue iterating on the content. So let's just say, I actually want to create a new, we call our primitives a card instead of a slide, because the difference is a card can be any height. So in this case, I'm going to create a brand new card. And in this case, I want to say, actually, can you create a card that shows me a donut chart of fish distribution around the world? And have it create that for us. So we're having AI create this on the fly. In this case, it's creating an actual visualization. It has the, basically a breakdown of the data analysis that it did, and it has a nice little animated donut chart that we can use. And because I like this, I'm going to basically say keep it. And again, we can go ahead and present this to you all, and now basically create a brand new card in this case with additional data for us. And so like the whole intent is AI sort of, imagine having like an expert presentation design partner sitting alongside you at any step of the way. You can always ask it for more help. And so you might go in and say, actually, I like this card, but can you try maybe a different layout? And AI can go in and say, okay, let's take this content and see if there's a different way to actually design the same content in a different way. In this case, it took that table and it made this nice looking set of boxes for us. And I can go ahead and keep that and continue on my way in designing the rest of the deck. So that's sort of AI or Gamma AI in a nutshell. And I'll pause there because I know I kind of breezed through a bunch really quickly here.
Yeah, there were a few questions. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say there's a few questions about size. And one thing that I wanted to mention is it's responsive, which means if it's on a phone, it changes the shape to fit the phone. And like you'll notice some of his slides are a little bit taller than others, some are shorter, and it fits the screen. It'll change size to fit the screen.
Yep.
Can I ask a question on that, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
So I just in my head, I was thinking this would be like if I had a cooking IG, I don't, but if I did cooking, this would be a really good an IG reel, right? Like you just make it and then you can make it a reel and then you could add a voiceover, add music, and you're done.
Totally. Yep.
Is there, I know that it's like you said, responsive, but if I wanted to like download this in like a horizontal and then upload into my, does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah, totally. So what you can do today, so we basically have in page setup, you can figure out, do you want it to be a certain dimension? So if it needs to be, for instance, you want it to be square and you want all the cards to be the same size, you can do that. By default, it's fluid, so it is responsive and it'll get as tall as it needs. Once you choose the page setup, you can also then export. So for platforms like LinkedIn or others where it accepts like a PDF as an export, you can basically export this deck, upload it into those platforms, and then create the carousel there. Others that need something like PNGs or different image formats, we're still working on different forms of exporting, but in the future we'll be able to allow you to really export to any platform so that you can do exactly what you're suggesting, use it for social media and really be able to repurpose content for different platforms really quickly.
Like I can also see this as a carousel, IG carousel, which is just an image you scroll.
Yeah.
Can you do that yet or no?
I can't remember if IG supports PDF uploads, but LinkedIn,
it's JPEG or PNG. Yeah, for
got
now.
it. Yeah, that's helpful feedback. Yeah, I'll definitely take that back. I think the next obvious thing, right now you can basically export individual cards as images, but not the entire deck. And so an obvious, solution for us would be do every single card in the deck and have it all be images.
Yeah, that could be a PNG right there. And then you have a carousel. I think also LinkedIn can do carousels. They also have PDFs, but just an easy thing to do. And, one more thing to do in posting, right? So I love that. Thank you so much.
There is an integration with Canva, right? So in the meantime, they could take it over into Canva, maybe.
We don't have any direct integrations to Canva, but you can export as a PowerPoint and then upload that, or you can export as a PDF and import there. So we don't have a direct connection, but probably we'll think about ways to make that a little bit more streamlined.
And there was one more question that was asked about, let me see if I can find it now. Mackenzie had a question. Mackenzie, if you just want to ask it, that's fine, because it's further up in the chat now.
I've got 2 questions now. Woohoo. So we all know AI struggles a bit with humans and creating humans in the imagery. Is there anything that you guys are working on image-wise? And this actually comes from a question from my team member who used Gamma to create a presentation she did on Tuesday. And she kind of settled with using kittens instead of humans because it got the kittens really well, but not the humans. And it was okay for that meeting because it was internal for us to talk about ourselves as kittens, but
it's definitely an area we're working on. I think that we've seen improvements. Like obviously, if you go, 6 months ago, even things like hands and human characteristics aren't always there. It's gotten way better. I think by the end of this summer, my own prediction, based on what I've seen in terms of early access to some models, is like it's gonna be in a point where we'll be able to use it much more reliably. So part of it is, we're getting closer, not quite there yet in terms of consistently producing the right output, but I do think we're getting pretty close.
do you guys use your own internal GPT to do the image generation, or are you utilizing?
Yeah, no, in most cases, we're actually leveraging many different models and then doing some level of fine tuning on top of that. And so we have partners like Playground that does image models, Stable Diffusion, DALL-E, and all of those are basically, as an end user, you have the choice to decide which one you want to use. So in this case, we can go and say, actually, let's try to regenerate this image using DALL-E and see what happens. And so you can choose between all the models we support. We'll see what happens here. You know, DALL-E is typically a little bit slower too, so it might take a second.
Is there a place where we can add our own images? That's right.
Yeah. So we don't yet have a sort of image, gallery or repository, but any one of these images could be swapped out for your own image. So if you wanted to, you don't want to use AI images, you can actually go back and say, actually, I want to search the web for images. I want to use Unsplash, or actually, I just want to upload my own. And then you can just upload your own image and throw that in there. In the future, we'll be able to allow you to upload all of your images so that if you're trying to, reusability being key, we'll be able to allow you to tap into your own library of content.
I really like the web search, because when I'm doing stuff for clients, then it pulls up images from their website and I can pull it in. And that kind of creates another wow factor too. It's like, oh, how did you get a picture of the inside of our office? I didn't even have to go out and search for it. It was already built in. So from a time savings and wow perspective, that's one of the things I really like about this too.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, so like pulling up, basically we leverage in our product a slash command to help you pull up anything that you might need. And so in this case, if you wanted to do a web image search, you could just do that and just say, if you wanted to look up a, sushi restaurant, you can have AI search for you and decide whether or not you're going to use what type of images. So if you need it to be free to use commercially, you can do that. If you're okay with using all images, you can pull in basically all the images from image search, and ends up working out pretty well. And you can use these images in different ways, as an accent, for instance, and have some fun with it.
Jose had a question about, is it possible to have a PowerPoint template, share that with Gamma and replicate it with the info that AI generates kind of as a fine tuning?
Yeah, so that is what we're working on right now. Today, you can import an existing PowerPoint, but all we really do is grab the text. What we're currently working on and should hopefully roll out relatively soon is the ability to take an existing PowerPoint template and preserve the layout and themes and have Gamma sort of remix or improve it for you.
Cool. And then Aaron, did you have a question? I see your hand.
Yeah, I was just really thinking about the applications, and one of the things that I want to start implementing is updating our training modules, right? And so we've got, obviously just hard copy data. How is the integration of uploading data into this platform, and then the output, is it pretty congruous between the data that's input and what this can produce?
So yeah, I guess maybe elaborate on the sort of data and like what sort of format that's in.
So let's just say, I've got like a shop and we're selling stuff at retail, right? And there's a process for, how to greet the customer, how to do all these different things. And so we kind of upload the data, which is, very much got a whole list of items that you need to do first place. And I want to upload it into this to create a presentation for a new training platform. The integration into this, like, how does it end up kind of outputting what we are inputting?
Yeah, and is the data in that sense, is it in a particular format, like a Word doc?
Yeah, it would be a Word doc.
And so basically you can import that, and this is, we're happy to take this offline too, and we can kind of test out a few different of your data imports. But basically, as you go and create something new, you can import a file, and if it is a text file, you can upload here and basically grab the text file and then have it create a presentation for you. You can also give it instructions as to like how you want the presentation, the information to be presented. And so a lot of it will depend on, what Word doc, what sort of Word doc are you working with, and what sort of output are you looking for? But in theory, yeah, we're working towards that, the ability to take your existing content.
And really, so that the text only file, so you couldn't end up doing a PDF. You couldn't do something that.
We don't yet support PDF, but that is on the roadmap, so something we're working on. And the other thing we're working on is basically an API that will allow us to support many more forms of ingestion. So it may even be that we might be able to integrate with certain systems you're already using if there's data there. But those are, yeah, more things down the road, probably later this year.
Okay, cool.
I think you could consider, Aaron, though, that you could take your PDF and make it into one of the documents that Gamma already supports and make it happen. And I will tell you that I have had good results with the PowerPoint in Gamma already. And even though Grant's talking about making improvements there, it does already work. So for us, we use it for our clients, even the ones that are still using PowerPoint. I don't like PowerPoint, especially now that I have this option. And so I will tell you my use case is that they had an old presentation in PowerPoint, of course, and they wanted me to design a new template. So I took their old one just to get all the information so I didn't have to retype it. I redesigned it in Gamma, and then I exported it as a PowerPoint, and they are totally able to use every single element in PowerPoint. And the only thing missing in what Grant is talking about is the fact that in PowerPoint, there's those master slides and there's those, that whole area there that does not translate. But every single item you do in Gamma translates over to PowerPoint, and you can still select it and you can move it around, and type is type and boxes are boxes, and everything else stays the same. So I just want to make that clear, because I know, Grant, you're on the inside, so you know like what doesn't work and you'll focus on that, but it still works like as it is today. So my advice is just to try it, and don't be stuck on just because you have a PDF that you can't make this happen, because you can make a PDF into one of these things and bring it in. So just a thought, and that the PowerPoint situation is good. And most people don't use the master slides and all that right anyway. So, I mean, you're talking about a small percentage of people that really use PowerPoint the way that they should use it. So it's really a non-issue issue. So anyway, go Gamma.
Thanks for that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you're
feel
welcome.
like we're oftentimes our own biggest critics, so I can only think
Yeah,
about
for
the
sure,
gaps.
for sure.
Heather, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. I used Gamma twice this week. It's been very helpful. What I was doing, I'm telling you what I'm doing because I want just you to tell me if I could do something faster. So I went to ChatGPT because I'm just very familiar with it. I entered a bunch of data. It was basically a sales presentation. That's all I do is sales presentations. So I did a sales presentation. And then I entered the info. What did I do? I think I did upload what did I do? Text only. I think I did upload a file. I just copy pasted. My question I had was, or what I noticed, yeah, that one, that's what I noticed, what I like is a couple things. Because it's sales, I wanted to see if I could add some cool sales data. I didn't know how to get that unless I went to ChatGPT. I just didn't do it. So there's that question. And then the other one is, I kind of wanted to create what I call an offer deck at the end. That one I specifically don't put into ChatGPT because I have it in my head. Is that something? Does that make sense? I mean, maybe
we'll go after the first one first. So the when it comes to I guess, yeah, what were you pulling in from ChatGPT into Gamma when it came to like the data piece of it?
I have it open. It's basically I was doing a sales presentation for a med spa.
Okay. Yep.
For my agency.
Do you want to screen share or should I?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you want to, more than happy to use this as a test bait. Test 2, making sure is this the right one? Yeah. Okay. So this is. So here's what I did. This is me talking. This is me just my stuff. And then it kind of came up with this email, and then it kind of came up with this presentation. And I took this.
Yep.
but this
Just
felt
all-
very just the data, and I kind of wanted to create more sales language in it, if that made sense. So then I tried to add this and this, that didn't go very well. So I just ended up going to this slide one.
And each one of those is an individual slide.
Yeah, and it did that automatically. Yeah.
And was the output in this case useful or?
Oh yeah. I sent it out, and we'll see if they buy whatever, but it was great timing. But I just thought, oh, I would love in the future if this, like just making it a little bit more salesy.
Yeah.
So it didn't work. I just thought maybe there's a feature I don't know about.
Yeah, I think one potential, let me go back to, maybe I'll steal screen share from you again.
Yeah.
So let's see, 1 second.
It's all about sales, right? So I'm all about like the data sales, or using the data to sell the thing. And
Yeah. So I think one thing you could try and be interested to see how well it worked is when you go in, you can, if you have like the initial version, you can basically ask AI to maybe, I guess be more salesy in this case, or like use
Okay.
specific types of language. Obviously, we have a few by default, like obviously if you just need to fix things like spelling and grammar, it can do that. But in your case, maybe even simplifying the language or being more specific, or different ways of, rewriting the content and seeing if it helps you kind of nudge in the right direction.
Okay.
And also when you're doing the initial generation, you can also kind of give the instructions to do so. So I guess if we go back here,
Okay.
and you're generating anything, you can actually go into what we call advanced mode down here. And
Oh.
when you click on that, you can actually provide it much more instruction. So if you can tell it more about the context, the tone you're going for.
Oh, this is a really good point. Okay, so go to the top left. I did see this. I just didn't know what I was doing. This right here. Oh, no, go back. Sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry.
There
Yep.
you go.
Go back to advanced mode. Yep.
Yes, please. That's right part. Right for ... No, I put in there the name of the company.
I
The
see.
name- What does that mean? I didn't do it right.
Yeah, so in this case, it's more of like, more generic audience. So is this a client, or is this, students? In this case, obviously not relevant, but yeah, who would the client be? And if it's a client, then maybe just saying, a client or a customer or a
Potential
prospect.
customer
Yep.
prospect. Okay. And then this is where I can put the tone. Can I put maybe the tone like sales here? Is that where I could start to
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
manipulate the
Sales.
language?
Yep.
Okay, I didn't do that. So that probably would have changed the whole presentation.
Yeah, I think that will at least nudge it probably in the right direction, and then
Yeah.
from there you can also at the card level, maybe fine tune it a bit and say, actually for this particular slide, make it a little bit more colorful or whatever it may be, or make it a little bit, kind of elaborate a little bit more.
And then the last thing is you did a great job of saying the added donut. Like the fact that you knew it was the donut graph was great. Is there a place where you have like a drop down to say different kinds of graphs?
Totally. So
Okay.
in this case, because they already generated that, it's there, but then you could say, actually, you know what? I want a pie chart, or I want a line chart, a column chart. You can choose. And you can also, and then even kind of the look and feel. So you might want to kind of, change the colors. And yeah, the other thing I obviously didn't get into is, and you're probably already familiar with this, but like changing the look and feel, obviously changing any of the themes really dramatically changes the colors. And because it's all baked into Gamma, you don't need to worry about kind of the changing the theme, breaking all of your content. Like that doesn't happen in Gamma.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. That was really helpful. And I love your product, and congratulations on your success. Seriously.
Thank you. Really appreciate the support.
You're welcome.
Cool. Well, yeah, I guess I don't know if there's any more
I think
questions.
could you also show the templates and inspiration for people as well? Because I think like the questions Heather was asking, the advanced prompt is great, but sometimes you're not really sure what to include on certain kinds of decks, so you're not even sure what questions to
Yeah, totally.
ask or what's missing. So that's sometimes a good place to start.
Yep.
Where did
So,
you get here? How did you get here?
So just from the main home screen, if you just when you first land into gamma.app, you'll be dropped into kind of what we call the home screen. And on the left here, you'll see I've created a bunch of folders in Gamma. So like we have folders for all different types of projects and functions. And then at the bottom, you'll see two places called templates and inspiration, both of which we're going to be adding a lot more to this year. But templates basically categorizes a few different types of templates by sort of project type. And so if you're looking for like a sales and marketing template, you can go here and you can preview and see what these sort of templates look like. So you understand like what are maybe some of the elements that are interesting. And then of course, if you want to, you can use the template and then and browse through a lot of these things. And then inspiration, this is going to be filled much more in the future with user generated content, but today it's mostly internal Gamma facing content that we've created, and you can see again what that might look like. We actually spent most of the time talking about presentation use case. We also a lot of people use Gamma for websites too, and so you can turn a deck into a website or a web page or a landing page, and we'll in the future we'll have templates for those kind of probably called out separately, so that if you're creating something that's made much more for asynchronous consumption, like a web page, you'll be able to use that as a starting point.
Wow.
We've actually been using them, and it is a form of a presentation, but for our marketing strategies, because it's much easier to present it in these bite-sized slides than it is to hand them, some 100-page document that they'll never read anyway. So we have found that this is the best way to show it to them now. And then we will include files, but it will just be a link on a slide with some bullet points and then a link to the slide if they want a list of all the keywords or whatever it is. So this has been really helpful for us there. We've seen people use it for onboarding, employee manuals. There's endless ways you can use it, but the website stuff is really interesting, and I have seen a few people use it. We haven't used it, at least not for AI smart marketing, but I have played with it a little bit just because I wanted to see what it would do, of course. But
yeah, I think we obviously dog food a ton of our product, but even our own careers page is built on Gamma, even our own marketing site. So if you go to Gamma, like if you land on Gamma.app, that's all built on Gamma. And so yeah, it's been fun to sort of have a little bit fun. You can see the team, and yeah, all of these are basically, you can imagine this almost being like a presentation. And as I'm going through this, parts of this feel like a slide deck, but really what we're trying to lean into is this idea of flexibility, malleability, giving you new building blocks to create things that can be presentational or can be much more like a website or a web page.
Well, and I think with the responsiveness built in, that's really the piece of what you have done. Besides the AI and the usability ease of it, that is missing from all the other ones is just the fact that you can look at it on different devices and actually see it in a way that you can still see it, and things aren't cut off and things aren't missing, or, now the picture is, underneath the text, and the, things get all shifted like it would in PowerPoint or some of the older tools. So
Yeah, and I like the live aspect of even the deck, because I I sent it to an organization as a recap to one of the training sessions I did, and I could see who had looked at it and who opened the deck, went on the link, and I could see what slides they were looking at for the longest amount of time. And so seeing the analytics in there was really helpful too.
Yep. And yeah, this what you're referring to is in any deck, when you share it as a link, you can then go in and view. Obviously, my sushi deck has only been viewed by me, but if I had shared this out, we'd see analytics, we could see what content people are spending time on, and it gives you a good indication of whether someone has read it or not. And also, if you're sharing more sensitive information, you can basically add password protection to it. So if you need to make it a little bit more harder to access, but still track analytics, you can have a little bit of a gating feature there.
I had one quick question. We're going in order. Sorry. I didn't want to step over anybody. So one of the things that my media company does is really focus all my clients on the top of the line funnel, like the top of the funnel, right? So we focus on the media traffic, we do growth tactics on that top of the funnel and the conversion and driving new, just driving new sales, specifically for digital marketing, because I've been in digital marketing for 20 years. So my question is, things we use a lot are things like video sales letters, right? And webinars and virtual events. And can I use that for this? That's more sometimes like with virtual events, it's more like content over a period of time. And then we're doing a conversion, a strategy, or webinars is definitely using Russell Brunson or Dan Kennedy copywriting, sales copywriting content, and using that. You get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Is that something that, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have some of our earliest power users were folks that were creating a lot of video sales letters. It's funny. I mean, if we even pull up our own sort of YouTube channel.
So happy to hear that. That's my world. VSL, top of the funnel.
How to create a video sales letter using Gamma. And so, yeah, check out our channel. I can also connect you with some of our early champions that all of their content on YouTube has Gamma in the background, which is pretty cool. And they're teaching people how to create video sales letters. So I do think it's one that seems to be useful. So yeah, would love your feedback as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I got some great clients for you. Okay, great. I felt bad for asking that, like, because it's so marketing, not more business corporate, but this is where I see where we could really use that, is that VSLs or they call it the webinar, Russell Brunson's direct response copy webinar, all this stuff, right?
Totally. Yep.
That's my world for 20 years. So I'm glad to see that I'm not the only one thinking that way. So I'll check that out. And if there's any more, let me know. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Good question.
Yeah, and we'll get a bit more into this in class. So Heather's in the applied AI course, and we do get into Dex and we show everybody Gamma in, I don't know, I think it's week 3 or 4, maybe week 4, I don't know, sometime in there. But we have a new cohort that just kicked off. And so we've got some of the people who are in this class, and if anybody wants to join or is curious, you could definitely join in week 2. We have a 10-week AI course, and then we have a membership where you get advanced information, like how to create videos using AI in a number of different ways, and that could include using your Gamma deck too. And so if you want more information on that, it is at aismartmarketing.com. And next week, we are doing an AI law workshop for 2 hours on Wednesday. And we have a lawyer who will be there to answer all your questions and talk about what's going on in AI and the law and what you need to know for your internal team, as well as external, and what you disclose, so that everybody can be using AI safely, and that you are going to be, as we're going to take care of your liability as much as possible by informing you about what's going on in AI laws. There's actually been a lot changing very recently, and companies like Instagram being proactive in that you have to say if the content was AI generated or not, but when you're posting. And so there's a lot of those changes coming up, and we're going to talk about that next week with Don Ho. And because of the work he's been doing with us, California State Bar Association has asked him to do the continuing education for them on AI. So the work is getting noticed. It's a really good session. And I think somebody will probably post a link to it in the chat if you are interested in that. And thank you. I just wanted to get that in real quick before everybody leaves, because we've had a lot of questions and a lot of demand on the legal side of things and how to get a team on board using AI safely. And I can tell you, by all the teams that we work with, when we do initial surveys, there are more people on the teams using AI than you even know, and they probably aren't using it right. And they're not using it safely, and they're putting private information in places that they shouldn't. And that's like, that is a big reason for the training. And with what we do on the legal side of things and how we work with our clients and their information, we are always the most conservative that you can be, because we don't want anybody to get in trouble down the road either as legislation changes. And I'm sure that this, I'm sure, Grant, you pay attention to the law and all of the court cases going on because, I mean, this has to affect your business too.
Well, yep, following along as it continues to evolve.
Yeah.
You're
Do
welcome
you
to join
have,
our workshop.
yeah, absolutely. Do you have an internal use policy for AI?
No, we don't. It's something we constantly discuss, but yeah, we haven't formalized anything yet.
Okay. So one of the things that Dawn will talk about is, with cyber insurance, a lot of people have it in their business liability insurance. They have a cyber policy too. And there aren't any policies that include AI yet. And so to cover yourself from any issues having to do with the use of AI, that's where he recommends having the internal use policy to show that you are cognizant and the steps that you're taking to inform your team so that you can be, as protected as possible in that area.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And then externally, like, we disclose to our clients that we've been using AI because we've been using it since 2015. They know it. It's not anything that we hide. And so if anybody like others in marketing, that's a thing to start to include on your website. And we imagine down the road that it's going to be like the privacy policy that you have to include on your website. You'll probably need to have something about AI in there if you are using it with client information. But anyways, I digress. The law stuff is really interesting when you see the cases that are in court right now. There's a lot of drama in that area. But yeah, thank you for being on here today. I want to be respectful of your time. It is right at the 3 o'clock.
Yep.
Thanks for answering everybody's questions. I'm sure we'll have some more afterwards that we may end up passing on to you. And hopefully we'll get some more Gamma users too, because man, it's such a good product and we love it and we can't wait to see what's coming up.
Thanks everyone. Really appreciate you having me on here. It's great to connect. If you all are on LinkedIn, feel free to connect there. Always looking to learn and grow from other leaders too. So appreciate the time.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Grant.
you.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.